There are at least three primary practical applications from this study. The first is to recognize the iceberg that's in you from your family. It's easy for us to hate or ignore our past as we get older. The effect on you from your family is much deeper and more profound than you realize. You are coming out of Egypt after 400 years of slavery. Again, as we like to say, Jesus is in your heart, but Grandpa's in your bones. When God gave the Israelites the 10 Commandments to learn, they needed the desert for 40 years to deal with their past, to get it out of them in order to live God's life. So as we look at patterns in Joseph's family, you realize that your family has patterns too. This is not about digging up dirt or trashing our parents, who in 99% of cases did the best they could. But it's about raising our awareness of negative patterns from our family of origin so we can live freely the way God intends. In other words, we get to make choices. We can't change what we're unaware of. But then secondly, we want to discern, application-wise, we want to discern the good that God intends in, through, and in spite of our families and our pasts. How does Joseph get to chapter 50, verse 20, where he says to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives"? I mean, how does Joseph go forward? And the answer very simply is that he sees God, that God intended or God planned it for good. This is the entire lesson of the story and the whole book of Genesis. At one level is the struggle of an individual and a family with great problems. But the purposes of God are at work in hidden and mysterious ways. God is working out his purpose through and in spite of Joseph's brothers and the traumas that Joseph experiences. Joseph's brothers are unaware that they can't see the ways of God. They're in fear and anxiety about their family story. They could not see another plan that God was doing, a plan that was hidden and working. Joseph's a realist. He laments, he grieves, yet he's certain of God. He knows. Joseph says, "You planned it for evil, but God planned it for good." Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails." The evil plans of humans do not defeat God's story. Instead, they unwittingly become ways that God's plan is furthered. I mean, satanic evil at the cross is our crucified God, yet it's our salvation. Out of the suffering and death comes life of Jesus. In so many ways, the story of Joseph is the gospel in miniature. God is about bringing good to you. God's sovereignty and blessings can be found in what appears to be the most horrific crimes and disastrous circumstances. It doesn't mean God approves of evil. It's simply testimony of his ability to bring good of evil. God did not approve what Joseph's brothers did. They are responsible for what they did. And God did not need their betrayal to get his plan done and to get Joseph and his family to Egypt. But in some way, God was getting Joseph to a place where he would be a blessing to the nations. We can trust God is doing the same thing with you and with me. So a third application is we want to do this hard work of discipleship. This is not easy. This is not quick. There are many large elements to it. Joseph is faithful to God regardless of his circumstances. When he's a slave, he's a prisoner, he's a number 2 employee under Pharaoh. Regardless of the circumstances, he stays with God. And Joseph engages his family when God opens the door. He did not harm them, even though they had harmed him. He grieves the losses involved, and that's another theme we'll touch on in our series. He doesn't sweep it under the rug. He's not in denial or suppression or medicating himself. You can choose to go that route, but God has placed you here on earth for a purpose. All your circumstances, he's working in and through them to bless you and that you would be a blessing to others. I love the phrase, the invisibility of God in human affairs. This is your whole life to this point. God has been working invisibly in your life to bring you to where you are today. And our God is about creating a real newness. The word Genesis means newness, beginning. God is about new beginnings. He's for life. We are to be in wonder and awe at this. You really can't analyze it. in a sense, you receive it and you worship the living God in it. Joseph, like David, has such an experience of God, so he's able to see God and he becomes a blessing to the nations. He breaks free. His life is incredible. Do you realize your life is meant by God to be incredible? There are treasures in darkness. As a 19th century American preacher, Philip Brooks, said, God will waste nothing. God will waste nothing. When we join God, when we abide and stick with him, when we remain with Jesus, we find that our best material is found in our failures, even in the sins of our past. So let me invite you again this week to dig into the daily office, that is EHS Day by Day. You'll be in week 3 that will have devotional readings around the scriptures and silence to correspond to this week's study. And you'll want to read the next chapter in the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality book, Journey Through the Wall. If you have time actually this week, I want to invite you to go to our website, emotionallyhealthy.org, and there's a free personal assessment there. Are you an emotional infant, child, teen, or adult? It's a nice 20-minute survey. It may serve you. But my prayer for you is that you may be like Joseph, that you'll stay with God through the good times and the bad, and you'll allow him to take all the broken parts of your history and your life and offer them back to him, that your life might be a gift to all those around you and that you might feed and bless nations. Thank you.